Hey, thanks for joining us for today's video. Today we're going to be talking to David Hadden. I have known David for probably close to 20 years. David has been leading worship basically as long as I have, if you can believe that. And David originally started out in England and came here as a full-time worship leader at a church in St. Louis, where I'm at. Left here some time ago to go back to Great Britain. And we've kept in touch. But David is just an amazingly gifted guy. He's got more than 50 songs on CCLI. Someone I saw posted quite some time ago called him one of the seminal figures in charismatic praise and worship in Great Britain. He's just got this incredible background, and he has a whale of a lot of things to share. And so we sat down and talked, and one of the things that we talked about, David made a comment about working with a team and how it was something that he had never really been taught to do and what that means and what that looks like. And one thing in particular really struck me in that conversation. So I'm going to let you take a look at what David says, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
When you run a team, you have to get the best out of everybody. Make sure that everybody's functioning at 100%. I think when I first started and worked with teams, I was functioning at 100% and they were tag-ons to my 100%. After a while, I realized that I needed to find out what was happening in them. It was really interesting because I was working with some guys on a recording that we're doing. This is a long, long time ago. Working with these rhythm section. And we were looking at this song, didn't have a clue what we were going to do for the intro. So I said, let's just try it again and see what happens. We played it through again. I had zippo, nothing. So I said to the drummer, which was unusual for me to say to the drummer, have you got anything? And he said, actually, I do. What if we did this and this and this in the introduction? And I'm listening to him thinking, that's never going to work. That is never going to work in a month of Sundays with my musical cap on. So what I chose to do was I chose to have us all do what he wanted us to do. So I said, let's all do that, and played it. And we played it a couple of times, and we got to an end, and I said, so what did you think? He said, it wasn't as good as I thought it might have been. So I said, what about if we just tweak that and tweak that? That's a fantastic idea, he said. So we did that, and the intro to the song came, bang, like that. And he sat up on the drums like this intro was all his idea, when actually it was a joint thing between him and me, and I didn't say anything. I just allowed him to wallow in the... And I met him about 4 months ago. He runs a big worship musicians training school in the UK. He was talking to some students in an evening that we were together. I was just fellowshipping with him. And he said to these guys, I've learned more from this guy talking about me, than I have from a lot of people. And I thought, if that was one of the things that he's learned from me, that's priceless. I didn't know that at first, but I'd learned how to just step back and just appreciate the flavor that he's carrying and just tweak, and leave it to his eye. That's your idea. Because we all have potential. We've all got gifting. It's not all mine. Good grief. It's hardly ever mine.
So think about this. David talked about wanting to be sure that everybody on the team was functioning at 100%, not just him and everybody else was being added on to that, but everybody fully engaged, fully utilizing their gifts and their abilities. So what could that mean in your situation? He talked about knowing his people well enough to be able to draw those things out. So how could you, in your setting, in your situation, be able to do that with your people? To be able to really recognize their creativity, their giftedness in music, whatever level that might be, their abilities, their understanding, to know those things and then be able to piece them together, to utilize those things in the context of the worship ministry so that everybody is fully functioning. See, honestly, I think that's the picture of what the body of Christ is supposed to be doing. And as a subset of that bigger body, if I can use that term, we as a worship team should have that same kind of functionality to be able to fully engage in what we're doing. And so as a leader, that means I want to draw this out of my people. Honestly, I don't know that I'd ever really thought about it in these terms that David was using until I heard him say that. I've done it to some extent, never really thought about it quite in those terms, but he's exactly right. So helping all of our people to really be able to utilize fully their gifts, their abilities in that context is going to make us a way better team, and to be able to function fully the way that God intended us to, not just me using my gifts and hopefully they'll come along and tag along with me. No, I want them fully engaged, fully functioning the way that God intended. And so what does that mean for you? In your setting, how can you know your people well enough to be able to draw those things out? Because it's at that point that you're going to have a team that will function way beyond anything that you can imagine right now.
Brought to you by myworshipleadingcoach.com.
Helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.